Hello, I am dropping in for another dishwashing commentary. Like I said, I have to do a lot of stuff, multitask, otherwise I won't say things on my mind. So I haven't said a lot of stuff lately because I've been busy. This is not a glamorous one. Don't try this at home, boys and girls. But I need to talk really briefly about all this criticism about King Richard. I want to talk about the nuts, the dollars and cents of it, and how all this ridiculous criticism is going to affect us. Bottom line is this is going. Like I said, I'll make this really short. Bottom line is King Richard is an amazing movie. I saw it myself, and I cried through almost the whole movie. I can't even articulate why I cried so much in that movie. It just touched me on so many levels. And maybe because I was just so starving to see something positive for a change that redeemed us as black people in this country. Because it was 1997. We haven't seen anything really positive on the big screen regarding us that wasn't about drugs or gangs or promiscuity or whack virtues and values, lack of virtue, whack values, since they took Cosby and all those shows off the air in 1997. In 1997, basically, and roughly around that time, they took off the Cosby Show, Different World, Living Single, Hang on Mr. Cooper, Family Matters, Moesha, Parenthood, Wayans, In Living Color, there were so many, Martin, Jamie Foxx, so many. We dominated network television because television was basically the bastard stepchild of entertainment. No self-respecting actor wanted to do television. Now all the big stars, all the big white stars were doing movies, but there was runaway production, which sent all those movies to Canada, and tax incentives other places. Blockbuster came on the scene, and so people weren't going to the movies that very much anymore. And suddenly all the big white stars needed work. And all these black people like Martin Lawrence and Jamie Foxx and all these people were gaining not only money but power coming to people's living rooms every single week. So they kicked them out and gentrified television like they gentrify in your neighborhood. And television overnight became the wonderful world of white people. And there were no more black shows. Everybody got kicked off the air to the extent that the NAACP, I'll tell you some history because I was there. I literally moved to LA the year this happened. My timing could not have been worse. But the NAACP came, the president of NAACP came to and met with Hollywood Studios and said, and threatened, we're going to boycott if you don't put black people back on television, blah, blah. And they gave him some lip service, sent him back to DC or whatever he was. And it went on business as usual. And all those people who had big shows were now doing guest spots, co-star parts, little stuff, sometimes without even any lines. I saw the lady who played the mother on Family Matters without lines on Will and Grace after this. So I'm talking about a massive eviction from network television. You tell millennials and kids under that there was a time, boys and girls, when black people were on network television, they think you're talking about fairy tale. And they replaced all these positive images with Flavor Flav, Love and Hip Hop, all this ignorant stuff. It's not even worthy of 3 syllables. Ignorant stuff. So they had gotten Bill Cosby out of the way because Bill Cosby was the only person really with the juice to turn the tide back to positivity for black people. They got him completely out of the way so that they could just plow through our children's consciousness and our consciousness with nothing but negativity. And then they enrolled us into it, appealing to the basest natures, so that we started feeding on this media junk food diet and got acclimated to it. So it's like, suddenly everything becomes a garbage factory. Even Oprah Winfrey, when she had her Oprah Winfrey show, then those white people were watching. Oh my gosh, she couldn't give away enough cars and luggage and nice watches, Philip Stein watches, and all kinds of perks and all kinds of positivity. All high road. Oprah's known for the high road, but once she got her own network, who she come to get the viewers? Us. What she give us? Garbage. Lots of lying, deceit, backstabbing, promiscuity, negativity, can't trust each other. And have you ever gotten a gift from Oprah for watching her stuff? Nope, that's a thing of the past. So all these people, all of a sudden, we've got nothing positive. So Cosby's out of the way. And now there's only one other black person in Hollywood with the juice to produce something positive that the networks will go for. Why Will Smith? Because Will Smith's always been called Mr. July. The biggest box office weekend in cinema is that opening weekend in the summer. And he was the king of it. Nobody could bring a higher box office than Will Smith. So he's the only person who could have made something positive for us. And then he did. He did. The story of a black man who had a horrible life as a black man in the South in a time when you and I probably couldn't have even survived it, especially all these haters that got all this crap to say. All the stuff that he went through, and yet he still had enough heart and courage and discipline and vision to craft two of the greatest athletes, female black athletes in history, and render that in a film that is touching and positive and uplifting. Uplifting is the main thing. And a whole bunch of y'all ain't got nothing but negative stuff to say. Let me tell you why that's so ignorant on another level. Because Hollywood is a numbers game. Everything is numbers, like every business, but in that regard, it's all numbers. So if Will Smith who's the biggest box office draw really in cinematic history, is if you think about it in terms of the sheer numbers and on the aggregate, if he can't deliver, and right now I think the number's like 5 million disappointing box office is saying, so it's a so-called disappointing box office in large part because of this pandemic that we're dealing with. People ain't really flocking to the movie theaters. And then you got all these haters parroting this cancel culture, talking about, oh, it's other kids. This is not a biopic. And if I were to go off into that arena, which I probably will in another video, because I want to talk about the dynamics of sex and how sometimes sex really is. I remember I was following, not to digress too far, there was a gentleman who used to run a homeless community in LA. They used to call it Dome Village. A lot of these homeless people live there. And one thing he pointed out one day, and I was following him, doing something like following with a camera, and he said, people talk about, sex activity of the poor, and so he said, well, sex is like their Disneyland. They can't go out to a nice movie when they got under stress. They aren't going to a movie, to a nice dinner when they're under stress. They can't take a trip to Disneyland. They can't go to the gym and work off some steam. That's what they have. And so this is why we have the reproductive situation among poor historically, because the sex is their Disneyland. That's the entertainment they got. So so that's a whole different thing. And not to mention that, it's also passion and rage are two sides of the same coin. Sometimes the angrier you are because of the more injustice you have been subjected to, and not to psychoanalyze in this little thing, but I understand that the dynamics of rage and how sex is an outlet when you have been so systematically oppressed everywhere. Your ability to provide for your family has been stunted and blocked. And then this opportunity is blocked. And then you got people, stumping on you and beating on you and not even recognizing your manhood, and you calling you boy and all this stuff. And ooh, even in that movie that everybody loves, I think it was Rudy, that everybody loves that movie, Rudy, which is a classic white movie. The cliche of the man who loses his job and then comes home and starts drinking and beating his wife, it is a cliche. Every man feels like his manhood is compromised when his ability to provide for his family is taken away. Now, multiply that by a system that forbade him to be respected as a man. Yeah, he probably did produce a bunch of kids out of that sheer combustion of contained rage. That is a different topic. But let's get back to the numbers of Hollywood. Hollywood is a numbers game. So if this movie only did $5 million, and we know that it costs more because Will Smith's salary alone, and as a producer, He might have deferred some as a producer and expected to get a lot off the back end, but at any rate, they're paying attention. And the likelihood of them to do more positive stuff, not only with poor numbers, but largely with this big backlash of people who can't say nothing good about it. The same people who never said nothing bad about all the gangbangers that are in the movies that we've been watching for the last 20 years, all the drug dealers, all the cursing and ghettoism, all that crap that we've been watching. All the movies that we've been watching have been about that one character in the film that was harassing the Williams and beating up Mr. Williams. That's what our movies have been. Our movies have been basically about that dude. And nobody's ever said nothing negative about that, so they just keep farming that out. But as soon as there's something positive, here we are striking it down. So Hollywood's listening. They're like, well, black people, they don't paying for that. They're not paying we can't make no money making positive stuff, because not only are they not coming out, but they are canning it. They're cancel culturing it. So it's like they got nothing. They don't like it. They don't like nothing that's not negative. So it'll be a cold day in hell before we get another positive black film if all y'all Negroes can't shut the bleep up. I'm hot over this. Just shut up. Yeah, okay. Your own relationship cannot stand personal scrutiny. You do not public scrutiny. You don't know the dynamics of that man's relationship with that mother or the other. Perhaps, the mother of the other children only wanted him to get a job in a factory. Come home and drink beer every day. Maybe he had bigger plans, a bigger vision for him and his kids and wanted greater, and maybe that person couldn't hang. Didn't want that. Didn't have vision. We don't know. So how about you just fix your own life, deal with your own mess, and shut up so the rest of us can get possibly some funding for some better movies in the future. Amen. Thank you. Good night.